You know, if you were to walk into a really successful, fast-growing CPA firm right now, what you'd see, or maybe what you wouldn't see, might actually surprise you. The partners, they're not drowning in spreadsheets. The senior team isn't burning the midnight oil just to process payroll. And that's because the whole game is changing. The very definition of what makes a firm successful is undergoing this massive shift, moving away from just doing the work to thinking and acting strategically.
All right, so to really get our heads around this transformation, here's our game plan. First, we're going to uncover the modern firm's secret. Then, we'll dive into the daily operational struggles that are holding so many firms back. From there, we'll explore a global talent solution, see what that actually looks like in practice, and finally, we'll talk about the powerful shift to strategy that all of this makes possible.
So let's just paint a picture here, right? On one side, you've got the traditional firm. They're always in reaction mode, just constantly putting out fires, buried under a mountain of repetitive work. But then you look at the modern firm. They've built this smooth, streamlined, predictable operation. And because of that, they're free to focus on the stuff that really moves the needle: high-value advisory work and actual strategic growth.
So, what is the secret sauce here? How do you make that leap? Well, it all starts with a fundamental change in how you think. And look, this isn't about working fewer hours. It's about reallocating your team's precious time and energy to the right kind of work, the stuff that actually builds long-term value for your clients and your firm.
But before we can even dream about all that high-level strategy, we've got to get real. We have to be honest about the bottlenecks that are holding most firms back. We need to shine a bright light on that daily friction that's just sucking up all the time and energy in the room. Yeah, I'm willing to bet this list looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? If you're in the accounting world, this is just the daily reality. It's the constant grind of repetitive tasks, the endless struggle to find enough good people, and those relentless deadlines, especially when busy season hits. It's just a recipe for burnout, and it puts a massive strain on your most valuable people, your senior team members. But here's the thing. All of these challenges, the tight deadlines, the staff shortages, they're not the actual disease. They're just the symptoms. So what's the real root cause that's driving all this pain?
It really just boils down to this one simple, brutal fact. Firms are so bogged down in low-value, repetitive execution that there is simply no time, no energy, no brain power left for high-value strategy. The urgent is constantly, and I mean constantly, crowding out the important. And this brings us to a really important idea, the capacity blocker. Think about something like payroll. It's absolutely essential, right? It has to be perfect, it has to be on time, no excuses. But from a business growth perspective, it's a total black hole. It just consumes countless hours from your entire team, but it doesn't add a single dollar of strategic value.
So, how do we break free from these capacity blockers? Well, the solution requires a pretty big mental shift. It means moving from thinking only about hiring in your local town or city to embracing a truly global operating model.
Now, it is so critical to understand what this is really all about. When people hear global, their minds often jump straight to cost savings. And sure, that can be a nice bonus. But for the smartest firms, the main driver isn't just the budget. It is all about gaining access to a deep, deep well of capability.
I mean, just think about it. We're talking about a massive pool of qualified accountants who are already familiar with U.S. standards and all the modern software tools. You add in strong English skills and a time zone advantage that literally lets work get done while you sleep, and what you have is basically a ready-made, expert operational team on demand.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but I know what you're thinking. How does this actually work day to day? How do you integrate a global team without everything turning into a complete logistical nightmare?
This split responsibility model for payroll is the perfect example. Just look at how this is divided. Your in-house team keeps all the high-value client-facing roles. You handle the communication, the data collection, the final approvals. Meanwhile, the offshore team becomes your execution engine. They're handling the processing, the compliance, the reporting. Control stays with you, the heavy lifting happens somewhere else. And let's be crystal clear about this. This is not about shrinking your local team. It's about elevating them. It's about taking the routine, repetitive tasks off their plates so you can free up your best people to focus on analysis, client advisory, and the kind of strategic work that actually grows the firm.
Naturally, the moment you mention outsourcing, the first question, the first fear on every partner's mind is about control. And it's a valid concern. How can you possibly ensure quality and oversight when the work is happening thousands of miles away? But here's the crazy, counterintuitive reality. Your control almost always improves.
Why? Because to make a model like this work, you are forced to document and standardize your workflows. You stop vaguely managing people and start precisely managing a well-defined process with clear checks and balances every step of the way.
Okay, the second big myth you always hear is that this kind of global operation is only for the giants of the industry. You know, the huge firms with massive resources and hundreds of employees.
In fact, the exact opposite is true. It's often the small and mid-sized firms that see the biggest benefit. This model gives them immediate access to a level of operational capacity and specialized skills that would be way too expensive to build in-house. It allows them to punch way above their weight and compete with much larger players.
So let's talk about the ultimate goal here. Once you've streamlined your operations, once you've removed those capacity blockers, what is the real long-term payoff? What's the prize at the end?
This is the core transformation. You move away from that fragile system where all the important knowledge lives inside a few key people's heads, where one person resigning can cause total chaos. Instead, you build a resilient, process-driven operation, where workflows are documented and the output is consistent and predictable.
And this operational shift, well, it leads to the most profound change of all, a cultural one. The partners are no longer consumed by daily firefighting. Your team's focus shifts from just getting data in to deriving valuable insights out. The entire mindset of the firm elevates.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to this simple truth. The goal isn't to burn out your team by working harder and harder. It's about building intelligent systems and leveraging global talent to work smarter, creating a truly sustainable model for growth. And that brings us to the final, critical question for you to think about. I want you to take a hard, honest look at your firm's daily reality. Is your entire structure designed simply to manage an endless list of tasks, or is it fundamentally designed to create and build long-term value? The answer to that question will define your future.